All right, hey guys, this video is going to go over multiplying and exponents, which are new. So I am gone today because my son is sick. So you're just going to be kind of watching a video lesson and taking notes as you watch. So first thing, if you can go to your table of contents in your notebook, and I would like you to add a title. Okay, so in your notebook, you guys know how it is. So it's your page number, whatever page you're on. And then the title is going to be Exponents. And the lesson is still 3-3. So if you guys could add that to your table of contents. And then as you're watching the video, I will be telling you kind of what to write down in your notes. So some things you'll just pay attention to, some things you'll actually write down in your notebook. All right, so this first thing you do not need to write down. So just as a quick refresher, our multiplying rules. When we multiply a negative times a negative, we learned yesterday that the answer is positive. Same thing if we multiply a positive times a positive, that's also positive. So if you have the same sign, if you're doing two of the same thing, negative and negative, positive and positive, you get an answer positive. We also learned that if you have different signs, like -5 times times +6, okay, if you have one of each, no matter what, it's negative. So this would be -30. If I had 2 times -4, it's -8 because I have one of each. It doesn't matter what you have more of. They're just automatically negative. So that's just a quick refresher. All right, so if you want to go to your notebook page, again, you should already have this title at the top, Exponents. If you don't, make sure you add that. We're going to talk about what an exponent is. So you probably have seen exponents in the past. Maybe you just don't know the name of it. But we're going to start by writing this out. All right, so the way to read this is you say 5 to the 3rd power, or 5 cubed. Now, you maybe have seen this before, but the 5 number, the big number in this problem, that's called the base. All right, the little number in this problem, the 3, that's called an exponent, or in power. Okay, so you guys can label that in your notes. Okay, so there's a couple different ways to read these, and I'm going to write that out so you have some examples. So over on the side, you might want to do this. So one way you can read this, I'll just do this. One way to read this is you can say 5 to the 4th power. That's how you could say it out loud. So I'm taking the number 5, I'm raising it to the 4th power. Okay, some exponents have a special way to read it. Like if I had 5 to the 6th power, that would just be 5 to the 6th. But if you have a 2 there, you can either say 5 to the 2nd, or you can say it as 5 squared. Okay, you'll hear that pretty often. If you have a 3 as the exponent, you can read that as 5 cubed. Okay, everything else, if it was like 5 with a 7, you would say 5 to the 7th power. Okay, so that's how you would read it if it's not a 2 or a 3. Those are really the only special ones. All right, so now I'll show you what exponents actually mean. So first thing that you do when you're working with exponents, if I gave you 5 to the 3rd, that actually means you take the number 5 and you times it by itself 3 times. So it actually means 5 times 5 times 5. Okay, now if you guys were going to work that out, you would say, hey, I know 5 times 5 is 25. And then I would do 25 times 5, which is 125. That would be my answer. Okay, so you just multiply kind of left to right, or pick 2 at a time to do. So let me give you another one. I might say 2 to the 4th power. Well, again, you take that number 2 and you times it by itself. So I'm putting this dot 4 times. So you notice how I put 4 2's. So again, if you're doing one like this, here's how I usually do it. I do 2 times 2 first. Okay, I get my answer. That's 4. And then I do my other 2 times 2, which is 4. And then I still have to times that. 4 times 4 is 16. So I just figured out what 2 to the 4th power equaled. Okay, now let's try it with a negative number. So I might give you a problem like this. -3 to the 2nd power. So that means I take -3 times itself twice. Okay, now notice how I put parentheses in here. So I did -3 times -3. Well, I know a negative times a negative is a +9. Okay, let's try one more. If I had -4 to the 3rd power. That would mean negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. Okay, so if you think about that, I'm going to just think about my negative and positive signs first. I know a negative times a negative is a positive, so that part's going to be positive. And then times another negative is a negative, and then I'll just tell you if you did 4 times 4 times 4, it'd be 64, so it's negative 64. All right, so underneath wherever you just were, just draw a little line. Again, this is a little harder for me because I don't actually have my notebook here. I just grabbed a background. I'm going to show you 2 different types of problems. Hopefully you have room for at least 2 here at the bottom, and how they look different. So the first one looks like this, and the second one looks like this. All right, these are 2 different problems. You do them 2 different ways, and I'm going to show you how they actually work. So the first one you do just like I showed you before. It says you're taking negative 5, you guys can see that there, and you're taking that number and you're squaring it. So that means I'm going to do negative 5 times negative 5. Notice how I wrote that out there. Well, I know a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to write positive 25. There is my answer to that one. Now the second one is different. Okay, you guys might notice I didn't put it in parentheses. Okay, so that means if it's not in parentheses, that squared, or that power, is only with the 5. If I wanted it to be a negative 5, I would put it in parentheses. So that squared is only with the 5. So here's what you do. I'll kind of highlight it. You do 5 squared first. Okay, so I'm going to write that below here. I do 5 times 5. Well, I know that's 25. Then all I'm doing is I'm just dropping down that negative sign and making it negative. That's kind of like saying the opposite of 5 squared. And I end up with negative 25, and there is my answer. Okay, now you do not need to write the next one down. I just want to show you this, so do not write this in your notebook. Okay, so I might give you negative 4 squared, like that, and negative 4 squared. Actually, I read the first one wrong. I would usually say the opposite of 4 squared. This one says negative 4 squared. Opposite of 4 squared. All right, so if I was doing this, the first one, I need to do this part first, 4 squared. That means 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and then drop down that negative sign. The second one means negative 4 times negative 4. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive 16. So there's my 2 answers. Again, you did not need to write that one down. All right, so we have one more thing that we're going to do. If you still have space on your notebook, just draw a line under that last example. Okay, if you have space, hopefully you can fit one more. If you don't, you might just need to go to your page from yesterday if you have space, or you just might need to go to a new page. So kind of wherever you have space. All right, let's do a problem, 2 problems that say evaluate if x equals negative 2, k equals negative 3, and m equals 5. Okay, we're going to do 2 problems, and I'm going to kind of walk you through them. First one is going to be, I might have x squared plus km. That's our first one. Then our second one is going to be mxk squared. Okay, and we are going to evaluate those. So the first thing I'm going to tell you, so again, copy that in your notebook if you didn't. Okay, the first thing you need to do, again, this is only going to help you get them right, is wherever you see a letter, a variable, you put a set of parentheses. So I put a parentheses, a squared, plus parentheses, and then another parentheses. That is your first step. Now you can fill in what you know. Okay, so instead of an x, I'll put a negative 2. Instead of a k, I'll put a negative 3. Instead of an m, I'll put a 5. Okay, now I'm going to work this out. So if I do this, let's start with the squared. Okay, remember this means take that number, take it times itself twice. So it means do negative 2 times negative 2. Well, a negative times a negative, hopefully you remember, is a positive 4. Okay, plus, let's go do the back here. It says multiply those things. So negative 3 times 5. Remember your rule, if you have one of each, it's negative, negative 15. And then my last step is, oh, now I'm adding. What do I have more of? Looks like I have more negatives. I have 11 more, so my answer is negative 11. All right, let's try the second one. Same thing. First thing you guys need to do, if you didn't copy it, copy it. And then you're going to put 3 parentheses and a squared back there. Okay, again, that's your first step. Now let's fill in what we know. So m is 5, x is negative 2, k is negative 3. All right, now you have not done one of these before, so I want to show you how it works. Okay, when you have one of these, I can see that I'm timesing all of this stuff, but the squared, I need to do that first. That squared is just with the -3. So I'm just going to work that part out first. Okay, so I know -3 squared means -3 times -3. That's kind of a better way to write that. And then I still have times 5 times -2. So now if you look at your problem, it's just like a bunch of timesing. I have 4 numbers. I'm going to do 2 at a time. So I'll do negative times a negative is a +9. A positive times a negative is a -10. And then this still is timesing here. So I have one more step. I'm going to do -10 times 9. I know that's 90. And then if I have one of each, it's -90. There is my solution. So I just evaluated 2 expressions with exponents and multiplying. All right, so your learning goal for today is, can you multiply integers? So if I give you a multiplication problem, can you solve it? Can you simplify exponents? If I give you this, do you know what that means? -5 times -5 times -5 times -5. And can you evaluate expressions? If I give you this and I tell you what they stand for, can you plug it in and solve it? So those were our 3 learning goals for today. All right, so now here is what you are going to do. You are going to go to the ClassKick app. You can grab your Apple Crayon if you didn't grab it already, and you are going to complete, oops, I didn't mean to do that. You're going to complete the November 22nd ClassKick. Try your best on them. If you have questions, you can put your hand up and I can try to answer them over the weekend, but this will be due, so this is your homework. You have the rest of the class period to work on it. If you need help, since I'm not here, you can ask the substitute teacher, or you may ask somebody at your table quietly. And I hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving.